Good morning, Trojan Construction. I want to introduce you to the belt sander. Belt sander is just that. It's a type of sander that actually has a belt, continuous belt loop that uses for the sanding function. What we have here today is a Porter cable, 352 VS. The VS stands for variable speed, which means you can have a variation in speed. It has different levels of speed on this thing. It is also a 3-inch by 21-inch belt sander. They make them 18, 21, and 24, the common ones, but the most common is 21. That's what you'll find in most hardware stores. And that describes the actual circumference of the belt that uses, so it's a 21-inch. A few basic parts on it is a front handle, a rear handle. It also has a motor, the main motor housing in here. It's a linear motor. It has a belt through this little oblong shaped area that drives a rear drive gear. And so you have two wheels on this thing. You have a drive wheel and you have a guide wheel on the front and rear. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer to the trigger. You got the trigger area, an actual simple, just single stage trigger. Right beside it is an actual trigger lock though, to where you pull the trigger up, press the lock, and it'll hold the trigger in the on position until you press the trigger again and release it. This is one of the few tools that I'll actually use the trigger lock on a pretty regular basis. This thing creates a lot of vibration and can be kind of uncomfortable to use in the long term. So I use a trigger lock on this. And back to the variable speed, there's a little dial right here beside the motor, a little red dial, numbers on it, and it sets the max speed. You can dial it up and dial it down. It has a 1 through 6 scale on here. Nothing real accurate, but you can increase the speed, 6 being the higher speed. There's a little knob right here on the side. It's probably one of the most important parts of this whole thing. This actually adjusts this front guide wheel to set how the belt rides on it. It actually makes the front guide wheel articulate a little bit left and right, and it'll help to align the belt. On the other side of this tool, as you can see, we have our rear handle, front handle, motor housing in here. Now we have a dust collection port on this, and this usually has a dust bag that goes on top of it to collect a fair amount of the sawdust. Somewhere 60–80% is all it catches. Now we were talking about the motor driving the wheel on the back side. This is the actual drive wheel on the back, and it has a little rubber pad on it which actually grips the paper. And you can see how this belt of paper, 21-inch belt, goes around in circles. The front is our guide wheel, and it has some adjustments to it, and it is also what you use to adjust to take the belt on and off. In order to remove the belt, there's a lever right here, little simple lever in between the two wheels, and what this lever does is release the tension on the spring on this front guide wheel and actually brings it backwards a little bit to create some space to where you can remove the belt. And then you put the belt back on. All you got to do is push the lever back down, and that locks the belt in place. Now there's a couple more considerations when you're using a belt sander, just particular to this tool. One is you're going to need some type of hearing protection, some muffs or some plugs, because these things are quite loud, and you generally don't use them for just a minute or two and stop. There are times where you may use these things continuously for 30–45 minutes or more. The other thing is, it's a must with these, is some type of respirator, even just a simple dust mask or a full-on face respirator, because they create a lot of dust. And even though they do have a dust collector system on them, they do not collect all of it, and you do not want to be breathing in this sawdust for the long term. This is the belt sander.